Imagine a footballer so confident, so effortlessly gifted, that he could sit on the ball mid-match just to tease defenders. A man who'd blow kisses to fans after scoring goals so beautiful they seemed choreographed by poetry itself. That was Tony Currie, the Matador. A name that captured his flair, his rhythm, and his fearless creativity on the pitch. But behind the dazzling dribbles and roaring crowds was someone fighting a much harder opponent: his own mind. Tony Currie's story isn't just about football brilliance. It's about a man who faced crippling self-doubt, while the world saw only confidence, and how in the end he turned his pain into purpose. Tony Currie grew up in West London, a kid who found freedom in football before he ever found comfort in conversation. He joined Queen's Park Rangers as a teenager, and after brief spells at Chelsea and Watford, he turned professional in 1967. A year later came the move that would change everything: a $26,500 transfer to Sheffield United. From his very first match, Currie felt at home. He scored on his debut and instantly became the heartbeat of the team. By 1974, he was their captain, the face of a club that adored him. Fans called him TC, Top Cat, and most of all, their Matador. He wasn't just a footballer, he was theatre in motion. On the pitch, Currie's balance, vision, and effortless grace made him mesmerizing to watch. He could glide past defenders like a dancer, thread impossible passes, and strike goals that felt otherworldly. He didn't just play football, he performed it. But that performance, that charisma, hid a truth few knew. Off the pitch, Tony Currie was the complete opposite of the flamboyant star everyone adored. He's spoken candidly about what life was really like beyond the stadium lights: crippling self-doubt, an almost paralyzing shyness, and a deep discomfort in his own skin. While others saw confidence, he felt fear. He feared confrontation. He feared change. And he found ordinary social interaction almost unbearable. For Tony, the football pitch wasn't just a workplace, it was a sanctuary. It was the one place where he could step out of his skin, where applause replaced anxiety. For 90 minutes he could become someone else, someone strong, adored, untouchable. But when the whistle blew, that character disappeared. And what remained was a man struggling to connect with the world outside the game. In 1973, Manchester United came calling. They wanted Tony Currie to replace the legendary Bobby Charlton, the chance of a lifetime. Every young player dreamed of that call. But Currie turned it down, not because he didn't believe in United, but because he didn't believe in himself. He later admitted that the pressure terrified him. He chose comfort over challenge, familiarity over fame. He stayed at Sheffield United, signing a 7-year deal, not out of complacency but self-preservation. It was a decision born from fear, but also from self-awareness. He knew his limits, and in his own quiet way, he was protecting himself from the mental strain of a world he didn't feel ready for. That same internal conflict followed him to the England national team. Between 1972 and 1979, Currie made just 17 appearances for his country, a criminally low number for a player of his gifts. England manager Don Revie saw his flamboyance and assumed arrogance. He mistook introversion for indifference. To Revie, Currie looked like a show-off. To those who knew him, he was a gentle soul who played football because it was the only place he felt free. This misunderstanding cost England one of its most creative midfielders of the 1970s. In 1976, Currie joined Leeds United for a then hefty $250,000. For a while he was magnificent. He scored breathtaking goals and helped Leeds reach 2 FA Cup semi-finals. But his personal life began to unravel. His wife struggled to settle in the north. His focus slipped. His confidence, that fragile foundation, began to crack. He recalls one night in particular, a League Cup semi-final, where he said he played a stinker. For a man who defined himself through performance, it cut deep. "I felt I'd let my club, my teammates, and the supporters down," he later admitted. That self-criticism was brutal, and it stuck with him for years. When he left Leeds, he called it the biggest regret of his career. In 1979, he returned to London, to Queen's Park Rangers, where it all began. He captained QPR in the 1982 FA Cup final replay, but injuries were catching up with him. His body couldn't keep pace with his imagination anymore. After leaving QPR, he drifted between smaller clubs. Then came Southampton, his last professional stop. Tragically, he tore a calf muscle while warming up for his debut. He never played for them again. In 1984, Tony Currie retired from football, and with that, the stage lights went out. What came next was the hardest chapter of his life. The man who had once commanded six-figure transfer fees was suddenly without purpose, without routine, without applause. He was divorced, living with his mother, and for 5 years he had no steady job. He drove taxis. He worked in a video shop. These weren't just jobs, they were his way of relearning how to live. "I had to learn how to talk to people," he later said. It was a painful admission that a lifetime of being idolized had left him without the most basic social confidence. But the darkest moments were still to come. Tony has spoken openly about drinking heavily during the mid-1980s, trying to numb the pain of losing his identity. He even wrote what he called suicide notes to his children, a haunting reminder of how deep the despair went. This wasn't for attention. It was genuine hopelessness. A proud man too ashamed to ask for help. He later said he never took therapy because he was embarrassed, trapped by the very pride that once drove him to greatness. The Matador was now fighting an invisible opponent, and losing. Then, one phone call changed everything. Sheffield United reached out. The club that had loved him most wanted him back, not as a player but as a community coordinator. A role designed to connect the club with fans, schools and charities. At first, Currie didn't think he was qualified, but he took the job, and that decision saved his life. He later said, "It saved my life, really, and put me back on my feet. It gave him purpose again." He didn't have to perform anymore. He just had to be himself, and that was enough. The job provided something football had never given him: peace. He reconnected with the fans, his city, and with himself. He was using his past, the fame, the name, the mistakes, to help others. And through that he found something greater than applause: belonging. Tony Currie didn't stop there. He began speaking publicly about his struggles with alcohol and mental health. In a sport that often treats vulnerability as weakness, his honesty was revolutionary. He admitted feeling a fool for not seeking therapy sooner, and began encouraging others to do what he couldn't. "A problem shared is a problem halved," he says now, a simple truth forged from years of silence. His autobiography, Imperfect 10, lays everything bare. It's not a celebration of trophies, it's a confession of fragility. A story about how self-doubt, when left unspoken, can eat away at even the strongest performers. The title itself, Imperfect 10, captures his evolution perfectly. He no longer chases perfection. He embraces imperfection, honesty, and growth. Today, through Sheffield United's community programs and public speaking, Tony Currie uses his story to help others. He tells young players that success means nothing if you lose yourself along the way. That vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. When Tony says recovery is possible, people believe him, because they can see the scars behind the smile. The great irony of Tony Currie's life is that the very qualities that limited his career, his shyness, his fear of change, his mental fragility, are the same ones that now make him an extraordinary advocate. He connects with people not through trophies, but through truth. He's proof that even the brightest performers can stumble in the dark, and that asking for help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. At Sheffield United, where he still serves as community coordinator and club ambassador, Currie represents something far more meaningful than football glory. He represents resilience. He once said that he nearly didn't stick around long enough to see his legacy unfold, but he did. And countless people are better for it. Tony Currie's story is a reminder that behind every showman, every confident smile, there might be someone silently struggling. And that true strength isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about finding the courage to say you're not the Matador who once danced through defenders, now leads a different kind of charge, and breaking the silence around mental health in sport. His greatest victory didn't come from a goal or a trophy. It came from survival, from turning his pain into purpose, his weakness into wisdom, and his story into hope. Because in the end, Tony Currie proved something profound. Recovery isn't about becoming who you once were. It's about discovering who you were meant to be. If Tony's journey touched you, take a moment to share this story, not for the clicks, but because someone out there might need to hear it. And remember, if you or someone you know is struggling, reaching out isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do.